results. Now, Dennis started with a story that San Diego State tried to create a new Power 5 conference with the Pac-12, Mountain West, and the AACs, but it fell short. Never really gained much momentum. Essentially trying to create the super conference, reporting to CBS Sports. The president, De La Torre, was trying to push the ensemble that would have accounted or amounted to a breakaway with the best schools from those conferences involved, and including the combination of the Pac-12 leftovers, Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State, whatever. However, the idea died after Monday night after the Mountain West presidents held a call that ended with leadership showing unity.
Yeah, I mean, basically this was all San Diego State. That's what it was. And it was San Diego State trying to find its way into the Power 5 and to find a place for the West Coast to have a spot and for them to be a part of it. And, you know, I guess only way to, in their eyes, to really kind of make that happen was to get everybody all together and create some alliance into a new conference, and doesn't sound like it got very far. No. I mean, it doesn't sound like it really got even off the ground. If you were comparing it to a plane on the runway, it started speeding up a little bit and then quickly decelerated and never went that far or left, the ground. So sounds like, really nothing in the end and nothing substantial, just preliminary discussions. And I'm curious to know, what exactly about it was, but part of it was the exit fees. And that's something that still needs to be explained. When you're talking about all these movements, people leave certain details out. And it's like, hey, there's these tens of millions of dollars that you're acting like people are just going to be okay with not having. If, yeah, sure, you can just leave and not pay your buyout, and we'll not fight that. Like, there's a lot of hoops you still have to jump through to make one of these arrangements happen. So
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
The same $34 million San Diego State was going to pay, so would 3 or 4 other schools from the conference have to pay.
Right, and how would you do it? Would it be you're joining the Pac, or is the Pac joining you? Like, how would all that work? And so I guess they never even got far enough to get into those types of details. That was, it almost sounds almost DOA. So yeah, that's one option off the table. And I do feel for San Diego State and SMU, I mean, you talk about being as close as what seems like humanly possible to joining a power conference just a few weeks ago to now, feeling like where'd all the life rafts go, or where did the couple of life rafts go? So, yeah, I don't blame them for trying their hardest. Yep. They've been a part of this mix the entire time. But the way things unfolded last week, I don't know. I think it put them in a really bad spot.
Well, you've got 26 teams between the AAC and the Mountain West that, when you add those, combining the two conferences together, which would be, this massive thing if that was what they were doing. But if they wanted to cherry pick, then they're not in a position to be like, look, we're going to take our 3 best friends, and then they have 4 friends, and then AAC, you guys take the coolest 4 of you, and then we've got a 12-team conference because you don't have a voting majority in anything. So why would the AAC or the Mountain West just let you go and then ruin this where they're not going to get any of that? So, like, okay, you want to get that $80 million a year or whatever it is from the college football playoff to distribute. That's all well and good, but why would...
You know what? If I was the rest of the Mountain West that was not invited... you could go, but each one of you are paying us $34 million, and we're going to keep all that money ourselves.
Well, but it's also about long-term. Yeah, so, like, you're going to get all this money long-term. So if I'm New Mexico and I don't get invited, or, San Jose State or something like that, why would I vote for that? Why would I let them go and let them break their lease and all that,
Yeah, well, it's stated in the article, too, of, I guess the way to avoid all of that is to get enough teams that it dissolves it, and you don't have to pay a buyout. And I've seen that thrown around for multiple scenarios for various conferences is, hey, let's get enough American teams join the Pac, the American dissolves, and then they don't have to pay their exit fees, that kind of thing. So this was in the same vein. But, yeah, there's just a lot of things to do to make that happen, and it just doesn't appear like there was any real gas on this.
And the problem with that plan, and that could be the ACC plan on the grant of rights. The thing is that past about 4 teams in the ACC, if they got 4 others to dissolve it, those other 4 might be like, all right, we did it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, where are we going to go?
Yeah, what about your TV contracts?
Yeah.
How does that work? Is a TV partner happy that the Mountain West died, and where are their games now? And, there's a lot of different details to it other than just like, let's pick up and move and we form a conference. And also, like, would you I think one of the bigger questions that needs to be answered now, and it's really only an answer for the next couple of years, quite frankly, as far as the current playoff will, once it starts, there's only a couple of years on that. And I saw that a lot last week. That was one thing that was bothering me last week was all of you got to save they've got a playoff spot. It's like, but it's for 2 years, guys. You realize that, right? Like you're arguing of staying for another 7 simply for 2 years of potentially getting, teams in the playoff, multiple teams in the playoff. That I don't know why that kept getting brought up as like this thing of like, it was 10 years. It's 2 years. That's all you were getting by signing back up. And then by the time you did that, you could have another 5 years on your Pac contract, and they flipped the rules to where, there's no automatic qualifiers, and being in the Pac doesn't even much matter anymore. So, that didn't work out the way it was as strong of a pull as maybe some people thought. But what does happen if that conference were to form? Is that an A5? I know that's mentioned in the article as well, but I know that that's been talked about, just in general with this whole thing of, okay, now there's 4, or is there still 5? Like, the Pac's obviously got to do what it can, but whatever it does, is it going to be a Pac? Is it going to be an autonomous 5 voting member?
Well,
at the end of it?
That's part of the question, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the part of the question that we don't know. We'd probably need to ask Mac about that because he'll have details on how that